Hello everybody and welcome to Premier League Today. With 3 match days left in the season, only 16 days of this Premier League campaign, 18 teams still awaiting their destiny, and look, 2 top friends right here in the studio to help us preview everything you need to know about this weekend in the Premier League. It's a big hello to 2-time PFA Team of the Year alumnus Ian Wright, and alongside him, one-time forensic scientist and now top sports reporter Vishali Bardwaj. That's really interesting about the forensic science. We'll hear more about that hopefully later on. Right now, those 3 game weeks to go, as we mentioned. Before we get into the table and the fixtures for the latest one, match week 36, let's get a quick look back at the last bit of Premier League action. It came on Wednesday night at Old Trafford, and it was a bit special as Man United and City took to the field for the derby.
In respects of his contract talks and everything what's going on, I think we're now seeing the pressure of it all get to him. Right. Because he's saved Man United for so many times.
Right.
You also have to think about the fact that, you know, in all fairness to him, he has got a defence that's let in 50
Absolutely.
Premier League goals this season. But he's also let in a lot of goals from outside the box, which I think is a worry. You know, he's made 3 errors which have led to goals in the Premier League this season. That's more than he's ever made. In any season at Manchester United. So he's obviously having a hard time, but he's still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But at a time when the defence is letting in goals, the midfield, like players like Fred, and the amount of times he gave the ball against City, and then you think about their lacklustre attack, when they're not finishing off their chances. I think they've gone 527 minutes without scoring a goal from open play. Right. So there are issues all over the pitch.
Yeah, and they were missing McTominay, crucially, in this game. Yeah, we have a laugh, but it's hardly funny for...
Well, he's been playing very well. He's been playing very well, but like I say, you just look at Man United and there just seems to be so much work to be done. So much work to be done.
Right. Mind you, Man City can make anyone look bad the way they're playing this season. Shall we have a quick look then at where all of that and the other midweek games leave the table? Everyone has now played the same number of matches, which is absolutely brilliant news, makes everything a little bit clearer. Man City now 1 point clear of Liverpool again and set to break the century mark again, possibly. Spurs looking comfortable in 3rd place, 3 points clear of Chelsea and 4 points ahead of Arsenal, who lie just outside the Champions League positions. United, despite all the doom and gloom, are still within a win of the top 4. And remember, they'll be playing 4th place Chelsea this weekend. And at the bottom, the last relegation spot is between Cardiff and Brighton. Brighton have a 3-point lead over the Bluebirds and a much better goal difference, so they're slightly more comfortable. Not very long at all. Here's the good news until the next round of action gets underway, because Liverpool are hosting Huddersfield at Anfield this evening. Spurs host the Hammers at their shiny new stadium on Saturday, while Cardiff have a must-win game at a Fulham team who've suddenly hit form. Rivals Brighton are hosting Newcastle tea time on Saturday, and then Sunday brings us a triple treat. You got Leicester, Arsenal, Burnley, Manchester City, and then to wrap things up, that United-Chelsea game at Old Trafford. It is a potential Premier League classic. Big game. Here's the thing. Chelsea haven't won away to a top 6 side all season, and Man United haven't won at home to a top 6 side all season. Bishali, what's going to happen?
I think Chelsea will win, and the reason why I say that is because United have got so many problems in defence. I think they'll concede a goal, and then they're not scoring goals as well, so I do worry about them. With Chelsea, they've been good in the first half of games, particularly away. We saw against Everton and Liverpool, they started those games really well, but they concede goals in the second half. So if somehow Sarri can do what he hasn't done all season, and that is basically keep them motivated, keep them fully focused after the break, then I can see them walking away with a win. I think they'll still concede though, but I think they'll win.
It's Sarri's reaction after Monday's game, which I know you were at, Chelsea's clash with Burnley, was to say, I'm not going to do half-time team talks anymore. They don't seem to be his forte.
No, and he's admitted it, that basically his team have a mentality problem, particularly after the break. And luckily for Sarri, he is going to be on the touchline as well for that game, because he only got an £8,000 fine off the back of being sent off against Burnley. So that's a good thing for him. But I think he looked like a man under pressure against Burnley. You know, he was going to the visiting technical area and he was shouting at the staff. He just looks like he doesn't quite know how to get the best out of this team. And obviously he's got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's now got his injury. He's out for the season. The good thing I'd say about Chelsea is that Higuain scored, and his performance was was the best that I've seen it this season.
Interesting. Well, I want to get Ian's view on Higuain a little bit later on, but you were talking about Sarri as a man who doesn't quite know how to get the best out of his team. Words that could apply so well right now to his opposite number at Manchester United.
Yes, because you do look at it and you see that when he came in, we saw this unbelievable turnaround, and it was magnificent, and everybody was really excited about what was going on with Man United, because we're now going to see great players kick on and continue with it. But now, for whatever reason, I can't put my finger on it exactly. Yes, we're seeing a lot of mistakes. We're seeing players who are not good enough. People are talking about contracts given to players that shouldn't be there anymore. And
who would you say that would be, Ian?
I'd say, for me, I think someone like Phil Jones, with all due respect to him, getting new deals. You know, people like that now. It's only last year, I think Ashley Young might have got a new deal. I think that we're getting into with all due respect to Ashley, and I think that Man United going into like the Barcelona game, for instance, and Ashley's there and he's playing. For me, in a role where against like Messi's and that, it shouldn't be happening at Man United now.
Right.
And I think that a lot has got to go down to the recruitment of Man United. You can't blame Ole for everything. He's got to try and clear up a lot of mess. But I feel Man United will get it right. It's going to take them a while, though.
Well, these are problems that have been with United for a long time, since Sir Alex Ferguson, perhaps even before Sir Alex Ferguson left the club. But when you look at the way the numbers have fallen apart, first 17 matches there, that win ratio, 82%. Last 9 matches, not quite so exciting, 22%. The goals per game, you mentioned this, Vishali, dropping like a stone from 2.3 per match to 0.7, and goals conceded racing up. Well, we'll talk maybe about why that might be, whether it's just new manager bounce evaporating, in a little bit. But it'd be interesting to hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, get his thoughts. Ole, keen to take the positives once again from Wednesday's defeat.
On Wednesday night, there's a team there wanting to play for each other, being there for each other. We weren't doing our jobs the game before against Everton. No, we weren't. But we know for this club, again, to be successful, we have to stick together absolutely 24/7. I trust David, and there's not... he's, for me, been the best player United have had the last 6-7 years. And he's been absolutely outstanding, and going through tough patches, it's just part of a footballer's career, and David will be fine, no worries. You can't guarantee anything in football, but yes, I think Paul is going to be here. I can assure you that he is now very determined to succeed at Man United. Paul's done fantastic for us. He is creating chances, scoring goals, he's doing loads of work. He's a leader in that dressing room and on the pitch for us. I think you know as well, the world has changed. So you don't have a Robbo, you don't have a Roy Keane, you don't have a Steve Bruce in our dressing room. We're all different, and we have a squad full of talented players. And leadership is so many different things, and they had it in one way, and I loved to play under Roy Keane anyway. He was a fantastic captain. Everyone here, they spoke about Robbo, of course, but we're all different now. Society is different, and we are all different in the way we lead. I don't lead the same way as Sir Alex did. Van Gaal, Mourinho, we're all different leaders. The total points is 70 in average for every 5 last seasons. We're now on 64, so that's where we're at. That's the reality that we are in, that we are now round about where we have been the last 5 seasons. And that's not good enough, and that's not just down to the last 6, 7, 8 games. That's where we are at the moment. And it has, as I've said before, we've got a great challenge ahead of us to get us up challenging again.
Yeah, Chelsea's going to be a huge game, no question, for a Man United side that in their last 9 games has had 7 defeats. Put that in perspective, you have to go back to 1962 to find a similarly disastrous Man United run. Now, Ollie, at the start of that, there were a lot of interesting things he said about leadership, about how this United compares to, say, the last 5 years. But the first thing he said was that there were positives to be taken from their performance against Man City. It certainly was better than the previous game, that 4-0 defeat to Everton.
Couldn't get any worse, James, in respect. And you're at home, in front of your home crowd, against Manchester City, your biggest rivals, who are looking like they may win the league. If you're not going to get a better performance than the Everton one before, then you really are struggling. But listening to him talking about there's different leaders, and you mentioned the leaders and Robert and this and that, the fact is that there are, for me, no leaders in that dressing room.
Do you buy that version of that leadership has changed, that it's a more
nuanced thing? Well, I think leadership has changed, but we're looking at a Man United side that we've seen capitulate on a couple of times, and we have seen no players on the pitch who you can say are rallying and driving, and you can see, look at him with his leadership qualities. You're listening to Ollie, and he does speak brilliantly, and he does talk about the Man United way and everything else. He doesn't park in the parking space because of the respect. There's a lot of respect. But the fact is that this team, he needs to start putting his mark on his team, a bit more disciplinarian in respects of letting them know he's the boss. Because I think that they've clocked off.
But the other curious thing, and you mentioned the nostalgia angle, prior to the derby with City, as a way of imbuing them with the right kind of Man United spirit, he took them to United's old training ground, the Cliff, the evocatively named Cliff, where United used to train until 1999. So none of these players will be familiar with it, but almost as a way of saying, this is how we used to do things, this is what we need to do. I can't imagine that having any relevance to this squad.
No, because I think that what that will do again is just, it goes back to a time long ago where Man United were amazing, and he's still mentioning the names, which is it's something that's going to happen because they have got great players down the years. But I think that this Man United team, and he's the one who's saying it, it's different now. So then don't go back to there. Start from here and then move from here and go forward with the players you've got. He's talking about Pogba as a leader, and I'd love to see somebody get hold of Pogba and make Pogba be the leader, build your team round that. Because he's got the ability to do it. But they're just saying it at the moment for me.
We saw it at the World Cup. He was the one who gave that inspiring team talk that led them to World Cup glory. So he's got it in him to be able to do that. But for some reason at Manchester United, he hasn't necessarily shown that leadership quality. And for a World Cup winner, you would expect, and particularly with his position on the pitch, he's in that central position that he's in the midst of everything. He's the perfect person, really, to rally everyone around him. But he's not showing that.
And he did that before the game. He gave that interview where he said, we haven't been good enough, it's time to front up, etc. Hasn't worked out. But in Solskjaer's defence, he's coming in halfway through a season, and he's also trying to completely change the way United play. They didn't press under Jose Mourinho. They began, certainly under Solskjaer, trying to really be aggressive towards other teams. And I'm not sure whether the training or whether the increased load without a pre-season to get the players fit for that has maybe had an impact. There's been a lot of soft tissue injuries, the likes of Lingard, the likes of Martial, picking up things which will support their performances.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues about whether or not the players were actually fit. I don't know if that's, people talking about the fact Jose Mourinho didn't actually prepare these players enough. But the fact of the matter is that, Solskjaer got a lift from these players initially because they didn't know if he'd be the permanent manager. So they performed every single week. Now, once he's been named permanent manager, I think performance levels have dipped from a lot of the players. And what's interesting was after the City game, Solskjaer talked about the fact that when the next season comes around, he wants the right characters. That was the phrase, he's the right characters in his dressing room. And I think he's quickly realised the players that are not good enough. Or not putting in the shift for United, and I think he's already started to pinpoint the players that he needs to replace.
So Ian mentions Phil Jones and Ashley Young, who, because the years passed for us all, are maybe not at the right standard anymore. Who do you think he's talking about in terms of character then?
I think he might be talking about someone like Paul Pogba, but the thing is, Martial, yeah, definitely. But I think the thing with Paul Pogba is he represents too much financially to the club to just be able to let him go. You could get a lot of money for him, but they make so much money off having a player like him that it wouldn't make financial sense for the club's board and Ed Woodward to sell him just like that. So there's quite a few people in that team. But I think the whole back line, they need new fullbacks, they need new central defenders as well. There's a lot of rehaul that's needed in that squad.
They need a lot of rebuilding, Man United.
And up front, I mean, they've spent a fortune, and they've got some amazing players, particularly in terms of goal scoring, and yet they don't score any goals. I think McTominay was the only player to score anything that wasn't a penalty in the month of April.
Yeah, and and even with Romelu Lukaku, he does score his goals, but he misses his fair amount. He gets a lot of stick from the Man United fans, and a lot of fans, to be honest. I know he's trying his hardest, but it just... I was speaking to one of my Man United friends the other day, and he was saying he just doesn't think it fits It doesn't feel
Lukaku.
Yeah, it doesn't fit, and he wants Rashford to play down the middle. Now we're hearing noises about Lukaku maybe moving on. You'd have to say that the way he's been treated there in respect of the new manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it doesn't seem to me like he fancies him as his main man. So you look at that in the summer and think that could be something that could happen. Maybe Lukaku moving on, so then they could free up some more monies to maybe bring in the kind of reinforcements that they need in areas. Like, for me, they need to shore up the contract of David De Gea and get some centre-halves. Is it going to be Koulibaly? I'm not sure. But they do need to start making moves.
OK. Well, next season then, with a proper summer of transfer activities and a proper pre-season to prepare the team for the kind of football he likes to play, Solskjaer could have a much greater chance of success. Right now, though, he's got at least a massive opportunity to break back into top four, realistic top four contention with this game against Chelsea on Sunday. You can see there the way it stands, 3 points off. I mean, there's a couple of teams between them and the likes of, well, there's Arsenal between them and Chelsea, just the one. But 3 points, and none of these teams, you have to say, are really lighting up the form guide.
No, they're not. And I think the thing is, this is really the battle for fourth, this game. If United win, you know, they're level on points with Chelsea. Arsenal has still got Leicester away, haven't they? So given Arsenal's away form, you know, it's still there for the taking, remarkably, considering, you know, United's 7 losses in 9 games in all competitions. It's still there for Chelsea, United or Arsenal to get.
All right. Big game for both sides. And let's hear from the Chelsea manager that his side aren't in the best of form either. But let's hear now from Maurizio Sarri.
The match is clear. In this moment, is a very important match. Probably is more than important for our target. And so we will try to win, of course. But we need not to lose. It's a very difficult match for both, I think. We have to play against opponents with a very high level of motivation after the Manchester derby, I think. And so a very difficult match. But we have to try. We have 2 very important targets in the end of our season. The first is the top 4. The second, at the moment, is to get the final in Europa League. And for the first target, this match is more than important for us, of course, and also for the opponents. They did very well for 3 months, and probably in the last period they paid something. I think that can happen. But I think that for us, on Sunday will be really a very difficult match, because they lost at the derby, and so the level of motivation will be for sure very, very high. In the last 2 matches, we had the problems with the defensive phase, not with the defensive line, because we conceded 2 goals on set pieces in the last match, and so was involved all the team, and not only the 4 defenders. And against Slavia, we conceded 2 goals with a shoot from 20-25 meters to the goal, and so was involved also the midfielders, I think. I think that we need to defend with more intensity, first of all, with more aggressivity sometimes, and we need to improve in the defensive phase with all the team. I think that Eden deserved to be in the top 11 of the Premier League. But I think also that at the moment the table is clear. There is City, there is Liverpool, and then the other teams. And so I think that the vote was influenced by the table.
Beginning beginning to get an idea. If that's how he speaks to the team at half-time, that's maybe why they don't turn up too inspired for second halves for Shadi.
That might be it. That might be it. We need to find something for Sunday, because that has been a problem for them on the road. It's just this marked difference in mentality and performance between the first and second half. It's quite bizarre, really.
You know, you say that though, James, and you say it in joke, but I've never seen him in any other guys than that. It can be quite draining.
Right.
You know.
So managers that you had, and you've had plenty,
Yeah.
who was the one who was most inspiring? And did it make a difference when they really kind of spoke up and gave it the blood and thunder?
George Graham was quite inspiring, but he was there was the authority that he carried.
Right. Scottish accent.
Absolutely. You're just like the old headmaster. You was frightened of him, and you got yourself going. Arsene Wenger was very philosophical and gave you beautiful words of wisdom to get you going. But like, just looking at him and the way his body language has been and the way his demeanour is, he just looks like somebody that if I was in the dressing room, you're just like that. You're literally like that.
Well, he's been tremendously successful, coming from a very unusual background.
He's come from a different culture.
Footballing background. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Place,
This trip, though, to Manchester, last time they went to that fair city, what happened? They lost 6-0.
Yes.
That was at City. But on the road, as you mentioned for Shadi, they've been rotten. In their last 7 games away in the Premier League, they've only had 2 wins. That was against Fulham and Cardiff. And they've conceded 19 goals.
Yeah, and I think what they'll do on Sunday, they'll probably be told to sit back a little bit deeper and just basically try and get a goal on the counter, possibly. A lot of pressure would place on Hazard's shoulders, unfortunately for him. He's been asked, I mean, he is obviously a great enough player to be able to take on that responsibility, but I just feel sometimes it's an unfair responsibility given the fact that the strikers don't score enough goals and the other wingers aren't scoring enough goals as well. But Hazard is someone who can, you know, he can have those moments, he can score those goals. So he will be a danger man clearly for United to have to stop on Sunday.
OK. It is a downgraded Chelsea side, maybe, that Sarri's working with compared to the one that was there last year. And I think that the talent up front is maybe the best example of this. When we have a look at the comparison between the strike rate under Giroud, well, with Giroud and when Morata was there, Higuain, the numbers suggest, is not actually doing that badly. The only thing is those goals, 4 of them, 2 were against Huddersfield, 1 on Monday against Burnley, the other one was against Fulham. So it's not in the big games.
Well, it's not in the big games. And when you do watch him, and, you know, a lot of people saying he looks a little bit out of shape, doesn't look sharp. Some of the times, you know,